The night it began, the wind carried a strange whistle through the abandoned streets. Most people ignored it. Most people went to sleep. But those who stayed awake long enough heard something underneath the whistle, a slow, dragging breath, like someone standing just behind them. My name is Aaron Price, and I was awake. I couldn't sleep that night. Too much on my mind, too much noise in the world. So I did what I always do, slipped on my shoes, stepped outside, and took a walk through my neighborhood. But the silence wasn't normal. It wasn't peaceful. It was waiting. The first time I heard the name Red Veil, I didn't even know it was connected. It came from an old man sitting on his porch, rocking slowly in a decaying wooden chair. He whispered, "If you hear the veil, don't look back." I thought he was drunk. His eyes were foggy, his hands trembling. I didn't know then that he had already seen what was coming. I didn't know he was warning me. I should have listened. As I walked past the alley near Maple Street, the whistle grew louder. Not like wind, more like a distant broken flute, the kind someone would play if they had no lungs left. I turned. A figure stood at the far end of the alley. Thin, unnaturally tall, its head tilted slightly as if studying me. A long, shredded red veil covered its face and draped over its shoulders, swaying even though the air was perfectly still. I blinked. It was suddenly closer. Not walking, not running, just closer. The whistle pierced my ears, and for a moment, I couldn't breathe. My legs trembled, but I forced myself to stumble backward onto the street. When I looked again, the alley was empty. The only sign it had been real was the veil fragment lying on the ground. Fresh, damp, and strangely warm. I didn't pick it up. Over the next few nights, strange reports surfaced all over town. A mother claimed she saw a shadow standing outside her son's bedroom window. A jogger swore someone followed her, but disappeared every time she turned around. A delivery driver found deep fingernail grooves down the side of his truck, and every witness mentioned the same thing. A red cloth drifting behind the figure, even when the air was still. People began staying inside after dark, not because of what they knew, but because of what they couldn't explain. One night, around 3 a.m., I woke to the sound of my front door clicking open. Not breaking, not kicking, just unlocking. Like the person on the other side had the key. I grabbed a flashlight from my drawer and held my breath. Every instinct in my body screamed not to move, but curiosity always finds a way to kill the cautious. The door creaked open. I raised the light, and it shined on a single strip of red cloth tied around my doorknob. Slowly twisting, slowly tightening. The whistle began behind me. I spun around, nothing. But the air went freezing cold, and the floorboard behind me groaned as if someone were standing there inches from my spine. I didn't sleep again. The next day, I drove to the library to find the old man who warned me. I didn't know who he was, but he felt like the only person in this town who understood what was happening. I found him back on his porch, but he didn't speak. Not at first. He just stared ahead and whispered, "He marks those he wants. Once he chooses you, you'll hear him in every silence." I asked him what Red Veil was. A spirit? A demon? A hallucination? He didn't say a word. Instead, he reached into his pocket and pulled out a photograph. A blurry figure stood at the edge of an empty road. The red veil covering its face looked longer, fuller, like it was woven from something organic. The old man said, "Every town has a story about him. Every culture has a version. A killer who hides behind a veil soaked in the blood of the first person he ever took. A veil that grows longer with every life he claims." I asked why the killer only shows himself at night. The old man shook his head. "He doesn't. That's just when he lets you notice." I left immediately. That night, the whistle didn't come from outside. It came from inside the walls. My house felt alive, breathing, creaking, contracting with every step I took. I tried playing music to drown it out, but the power flickered and died. My phone went black. The air thickened until I felt like I was drowning in silence. Then came the footsteps, soft, slow, steady, moving from the hallway toward my bedroom. I pressed my back against the corner and held a metal lamp like a weapon. The footsteps stopped, right outside my door. The doorknob turned, clicked. The door swung open. A tall silhouette filled the frame. A long, torn red veil covered the face entirely. I froze. My mind screamed, but my throat didn't work. The figure stepped closer, its head tilting, veil dripping something dark onto the floor. The whistle crawled inside my ears until I felt it vibrating in my skull. Then, without warning, the figure lifted a hand, long, thin, pale. and pointed directly at me. The whisper returned. Last night, everything went black for a moment. When I opened my eyes, I was lying in the middle of the road. The sun was rising. Birds were singing. The world looked normal, but the red veil was wrapped around my arm. Tight, warm, alive. And that's when I understood. Red veil doesn't kill you right away. He takes you piece by piece. Your sleep, your sanity, your senses, your voice. Then when he finally takes your face, your veil becomes part of his, and he moves on to the next person, wearing you.